Hello and welcome to another Stamp with Amy K Facebook Live video. I almost said the wrong word. Hopefully y'all are doing well today, and hopefully y'all, are gonna like this card. I love the bundle, and I probably will say it wrong a few times through the video. I'm trying to learn the right way to say the word. But y'all know from my previous video with this where I was showing off the new products that, yeah, I said it wrong. So I'm trying. I've been listening to Google help me to say the word correctly, and I've been practicing, but I'll probably still say it wrong. So I will apologize up front that we are using the new classic Cloche. Hopefully I said it right. Stamp set bundle today. Hey Karen, thanks for joining. So if I've said it wrong, I apologize up front, and y'all can correct me. But like I said, I'm trying to learn how to say all the words correctly, but it doesn't always happen. So hey Akiko. All right, so this is the stamp set bundle we're going to be using today. It's got some really cute images in it, some good sentiments in it, and like I said, I just really like it. And of course, you know that anything that's bundled with dies, I automatically love. And again, it's got a great die set with it. So we have the one that cuts out the little, of course the images are smaller on the front, but this cuts out your little cloche. And then we've got some additional images in here. This one will cut out the little village that you can stamp. It's actually 3-step stamping on that, as well as the bird dies. There's one that cuts out the little bird images on here. And again, that's a 3-step stamping little thing. This cuts out the little base that goes underneath here. This one you can use as like a snowy hill or something like that in there, whatever you want to do with it. And then there are some really cute trees. This is another little snowy hill that you can put in there. So it's a great die set, great stamp set. Hey, Catherine and Vicky, thanks for joining. I said it correctly. Yay! I can be taught. Saying words right is not one of my strengths. So hopefully I stamp better than I talk. I don't know. So, all right, so that's one of the die sets we're going to be using. Another die set that we're using today. Hey, Jamie, thanks for hopping in, and Linda as well. So glad that glad you found me today too. And Laura, thanks for joining. So we're going to be using this die actually from the Picture This dies. Almost forgot the name of them. So we're going to be using this die to actually cut out a little sentiment on here because it fit perfectly with it. And what else are we using? Oh, and we've got the stitched rectangles dies because, I use those on everything. And this is the die that we're using in particular, and we're going to be cutting, whoa, I picked the wrong one. Yikes, that would have been bad. Okay, that's a better fit. So the second from the largest die here, we are going to be cutting out the little background piece with, and I'll show you how I put this all together. It's actually really easy, so I don't want you to be like stressed out over this. It's a really easy stamp set and bundle to work with, so have fun playing with it. And again, it's fun. I made a little shaker card. So all right, first things first, before I get going, well, first of all, celebration is going on, so don't forget that. For every order of $50 or greater that you place, you're going to start earning free stuff from Stampin' Up. There are some items that are at the $50 level, and some of them are at the $100 order level. And free is always awesome. It's a great set of products that they've got this year. We are also doing a little event this weekend on Sunday as a team. We're going to just kind of introduce you to our team and talk to you about being a demonstrator. So if you've ever considered joining or being a demonstrator, let us know. We'd be happy to have you come join us for the event. It's going to be really relaxed and not a big sales pitch or high pressure or anything. So just hop on in, find out more about it. If it's not for you, that's just fine. If it is, then we'd love to have you join us. So, all right, I will be posting the link to the group on Saturday morning, which is the 28th of August. And then the event will run, actually most of the event will be on Facebook from 4 to 8 p.m. on Sunday the 29th. And we're going to have a Zoom chat as well. So if you're not on Facebook, you can join us for the Zoom chat as well. So, and that's from 7 to 8 in the evening. If you have questions about it or want to know any more details, drop me an email at amy@stampwithamyk. I'd be happy to chat more with you about it. Hey, Kim and Jan, thanks for joining today. So, all right, let's get going on the card now that I've chatted long enough. Okay, I did some of the die cutting and some of the, well, not really much of the die cutting, some of the cutting ahead of time. So we've got a card base. This is Smoky Slate, and it's cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2. And this is a piece of, I almost said it wrong already. See, words are hard sometimes. Peaceful Place Designer Series paper. It's one of the specialty papers, so it's actually foiled on one side, but of course I'm using the non-foiled side today. So, you know, like I said, it's almost hard to glue some of this down because it's so pretty on both sides, but I wanted a little more, a little lighter and a little more neutral on the background. Just using a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue, and we're going to adhere this to the card front. The panel of Designer Series paper is cut to 4, ooh, goodness, I'm going all sorts of crazy sticking that down. 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and again, it should fit and cover the entire card front if I haven't messed anything up or haven't glued it on too crazy that it won't go straight anymore. I think I got it on there. Next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to do a little die cutting here. Now, this is a piece, again, of the Peaceful Place Designer Series paper, and again, we're putting the pretty sparkly side down, but I'm going to take my stitched rectangle die, which is again the second largest of the stitched rectangle dies, and then I'm going to take my little cloche dies, and I'm going to take this die, and I'm going to put the two together. Actually, we're going to die cut them and hold our breath and cut the two together. Now I want this up a little bit towards the top because I'm going to put a sentiment down underneath it. The one, well, good and bad thing about using the plaid side of the paper is that it makes things easy to line up so that they're straight. But if you don't line it up, it's also kind of obvious that it's not straight. So just be a little careful if you're going to use the plaids. Like I said, it makes it really easy for lining things up, but it also makes it kind of stick out if it's not lined up. So just be careful as you're die cutting. I'm going to take this off screen for a second. My die cutting machine is set up on a separate table over here to my right. So I'll be off screen for 1 second doing the die cutting. Hey Dee, thanks for joining today. Hopefully y'all are having a good Tuesday, and thanks for hopping in early with me. Back to school, as anybody knows who's got kids that are going back to school, is a crazy time of year. So, all right. And anyone that's a teacher out there also knows what a crazy time of year it is. So, and I'm hoping that I don't have any more crazy schedule changes. Well, I will have one on, what day is it? Friday of this week. One more schedule change, but we can chat about that later because I have a Stampin' Up! Event going on Friday. So, all right, so we've got the die cutting for the main panel done here, or the main part of the card front done. Get it peeled out of the die. All right, so that is what we're left with, and that's basically what you're going to stick the little die cut and the shaker part through in just a second once we get that all stamped and ready to go. So the other piece that I used here is, again, another of the Peaceful Place Designer Series paper, and this time we are actually using the foiled side of it, but not very much of it. Because I didn't necessarily want the pine trees to show in the background on this. So when I'm stamping it, I'm actually going to put this image, but we're going to scoot it up a little bit towards the top. Not too close to the top, because I want to make sure that, you know, basically we're going to try to situate it about like that. Probably a little closer to that, so that we kind of have everything that I want showing through, but not what I don't, if that makes sense. You'll see in a second. So words again today are hard. Hey Julie, thanks for joining, and Susan and Jennifer and Jillian. So I have got basic gray ink, and I'm going to be inking up the little cloche image, and I'm going to stamp it directly on the Designer Series paper. I'm going to scooch this over and out of the way. But again, I'm stamping it sort of higher up, but not too high up that I end up with the top part showing the background of the card, which I don't necessarily want that. All right, so I've got that stamped on there. And then I'm going to set this aside until we're ready to start gluing some things down. I'm going to trim this down significantly, but just wanted to get the other pieces layered over the top and then put this over the top and kind of figure out where we need to trim it down to make it work. All right, next up, we're going to do a little bit of stamping on the little village that we've got here. So again, I've got basic gray ink that I'm going to be using to stamp the kind of lined image of the village from the stamp set. And I'm stamping it just on basic white cardstock. And it will be die cut, so it doesn't necessarily matter exactly where you put it, as long as you give it enough room around the edges so that you don't end up chopping the edge off where you don't want it chopped off. Then I have got the little, actually let me stamp this one first. So this is like it's a more solid background image, which is actually this one in the stamp set. And we're going to be using Pool Party ink. And I'm just going to ink it up. Stamp it on scrap paper. So I'm going to stamp it here on my grid paper and then come back over the top of my village here and try to get it lined up. It's not incredibly difficult to line up, but you do kind of need to pay attention a little bit to the roof lines. That's sort of where the lining up part that I used. The roof lines and the little clock tower or bell tower or whatever that is, that's how I sort of lined up where everything went on here. All right, and that's what you end up with for the little background image. And the final piece of the little village is it fills in the houses, and I'm using Smoky Slate ink on this. Oh, you're glad you got the bundle? Yeah, it's a good one. So, and thanks, Corinne, I appreciate that. All right, so we've got the little fill-in image. Again, this is the fill-in for the houses, and I'm going to do the same thing, just going to stamp it on the scrap paper, and then stamp it over the top of the little villages here. And again, it's not terribly difficult to line up. You just need to kind of take a second, hold it over it before you push it down, and make sure you have it in the right spot, or as close to the right spot as you're going to get, which some days it's as close as you're going to get. So, all right, so we've got that stamped. Then there is a little die that actually coordinates with it. And we're going to take this over and I'm going to cut it out. This die, I will tell you, some of the dies that we have, you can get down a little bit closer with. This one actually, I think, looks better and works a little bit better if you don't line it up right over the top of the stamped part. I don't know. I thought it looked a little strange. So I don't know. That was my personal opinion on it. I thought it worked better when I slid it up just a little bit and it gave it a little bit more of a white edge around it. But you can die cut it however you like. This is just my preferred way of doing it. So again, I'm going to take this over to my die cutting machine here for a second and cut it out. And again, hopefully cut it straight. So those of you with kids, everybody getting ready for back to school? I know some kids have already gone back. My younger one starts tomorrow, but we have a preview day at school today, this afternoon, so that's why I'm hopping on just a little bit early today. But yeah, I know, it's just, like I said, it just starts to be a crazy time of year. When I started looking at it, I'm like, oh my goodness, Tuesday we have a lot of things happening. So, all right, so I've got this die cut done here. Again, it was just cut with one of the Cloche dies. And I'm going to use Stampin' Seal, and we're going to adhere this right over the top of the previously stamped image here. You can use whatever adhesive you like. Again, I prefer Stampin' Seal, so that's why I'm using it. And it lines up pretty close. Basically fits right into what you stamped, or it should fit pretty closely into that. I'm just going to press that down and make sure it's stuck down well. Then comes the fun part and the shaky part. So these are the subtle shimmer sequins, and they're actually part of the dog's barking, sorry. Must have a delivery guy outside. So they're part of the Peaceful Cabin suite, which I'm sure that's probably not the right name for it. I think maybe Peaceful Place suite. So I'm just going to take these and put, I don't know, probably 4 or so little pinches of these, and I'm piling them up in the middle of the stamped image that I've got on here. I think that looks good, hopefully. And then there are these cool little Cloche shaker domes. So they come in a box of 10, I'm sorry. And what's really cool about these is they're adhesive on both sides. So that's one definite bonus when you're sticking these together. Just peel off the little adhesive backing, and we're going to stick it right over the top of our little shaker here, which sometimes in the past I've used some of the shakers and they don't work quite as well when they're only adhesive on one side. And I don't know, I just find them more difficult to work with when you have to stick everything and layer it all together. These work really nicely because it's all stuck together already. All right, so we've got our little shaker here all set and ready to go. And hopefully it shakes, which it does. So, so then I'm going to take this and kind of place it over the top and figure out here how we need to trim down this paper so that it fits underneath it. So again, it's not like a magical, oh, I have to cut it an exact way or a certain way. I want a little bit of the paper left on it so that I have things to adhere, but not so much that it's peeking out underneath my already die cut piece. So let me do a quick little fit here and make sure that I don't need to trim anything else down. And whoop, it looks like I've got a little bit peeking out here on the side, so I'm going to trim this down just a little bit. And as you can see, I do have my fancy cutting skills on display. That's how I do fussy cutting. This is why I don't do it. So, all right, so next up, I'm gonna peel off the adhesive part for the top of it. Whoop, maybe, there we go. And I'm just gonna stick the two. Whoops, I almost did it upside down. Yikes. Glad that I saw that. Although it would have looked fine with the other image sticking out of it, so. All right, so we're gonna stick that together. And again, the adhesive holds it and keeps everything in place. So the card front really is pretty easy to put together. Like I said, I mean, it's just a matter of die cutting, putting a few layers in it, adding your shakers, and that's it. So, all right, now we're gonna take this and adhere it to the card front. Oh, Catherine, sorry, I missed your comment about buying school clothes for 4 grandchildren. Yikes, that's, yeah. Uh-oh, is my glue, oh, there we go. My glue is goobered shut, I don't know. Had glue boogers, I don't know what you want to call them. So, all right, I'm adding a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue kind of all over on the back of this. I want to make sure that I get both pieces so that they're both secured to the card front. And hopefully I don't stick my fingers all over in it. And we're just going to line it up here and try to get it on here straight and fairly centered. And again, the design in the paper does make it easier to get things lined up, but it also makes it a little more obvious if you don't have it lined up. So, so again, if you don't get it perfectly straight, that's okay. But I usually try to get them straight, but it doesn't always work. So, all right, just going to let that glue take hold for 1 second, make sure everything is stuck down well, and then we're going to start playing with the other pieces on it. So ahead of time, I also did some die cutting, so you didn't have to sit and watch me do all of this. Y'all love, oh, the paper is awesome. It's one of my favorite ones, and it's kind of, it doesn't look very, I don't know, it looks different in the catalog than what it looks in your hand, so I love the paper, and definitely you guys all need to get it. So, all right, so these are from the Cloche dies as well, so let me get the dies that sort of put back on here. This one is actually the one I used to cut the smoky slate cardstock, and this one is the one I used to cut the silver foil sheets. They're from the silver foil specialty pack. Before I cut the silver foil, I actually finally remembered to use my adhesive sheets on the back of it because this is a pretty intricate die cut. I wanted to try to make it as easy as possible. So I've got adhesive sheets already applied to the back of it before I die cut it. So now all I'm doing is trying to peel those off so that I can stick the two pieces together. This one is a little tricky to glue together, but not terrible. You just kind of have to take a minute and make sure that you get one end lined up like I haven't been able to do so far, and then kind of press it down and make sure you've got your other end lined up here. There we go. I think we've got it. All right, so that's it. So the adhesive sheets do definitely make this sticking together much easier. I would probably have gluey fingers everywhere if I tried to use the liquid glue to put it down. So definitely give the adhesive sheets a try if you haven't tried them yet or don't have them. I highly recommend them for these types of die cuts. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue to the back of it, and then we're going to take that and we're going to put it right up underneath here to create the kind of base underneath my little cloche. Like I said, I'm learning, I'm trying to say it the right way. So I've got the little base stuck up underneath here, and again, just giving the liquid glue a chance to dry for a second before I let it go. The last piece on the card front is just going to be adding the sentiment, and oh, here we go. I was going to say, where's my, I should be able to find my Versamark. So I've got Versamark ink, and again, the sentiment is from the classic Cloche stamp set. We're going to use Versamark ink to heat emboss it with silver embossing powder on basic gray cardstock. And this is just a little scrap of basic gray cardstock that I have. And again, stamping it, again, as long as you don't get too crazy with your stamping, it doesn't matter if it's perfectly straight on this piece of paper because we're going to be die cutting the sentiment out anyway. All right, let me grab my silver embossing powder, again from the Metallics embossing powders. And hopefully I don't make a mess on this. I've had some sort of disasters recently on my live videos with embossing powders. I don't know. So I'm just gonna, I'll try to take it slow and easy. So we've got silver embossing powder on there, and I've got my Stampin' Up! Heat tool. I want to make sure I've got embossing powder covering everything. It's a little bit hard to see. I'm sure you can probably see on the screen. It's a little difficult to see it, whether it's covered or not when you're doing the kind of two-tone image here. So I've got the heat tool on the level 2 setting, which is the heat embossing setting for the Stampin' Up! Heat tool. And giving it a second to heat up, and then we're going to heat emboss the sentiment. Again, hopefully, there we go. It's starting to go, and you can see the color show up. All right, okay, looks like it's all done. I'm going to give it a second to cool off before I do the die cutting to make sure I don't smear it. So, oh, you bypassed the set in the catalog? Oh, you need to go back and take a look at it, Catherine. It's definitely a good one. So it is like magic. I mean, how cool is that? You just heat it up and ta-da, you've got a pretty shiny sentiment. So again, I'm going to be doing the die cutting over here to my right-hand side, and this is the picture this dies, and I'm just going to, I've cut down the cardstock intentionally a little bit smaller so that I don't, you don't have to use the whole piece of cardstock if you just want one little thing cut out of it like this. Just cut your cardstock down a little bit, stamp on it, and then die cut it. Yeah, I pretty much let the Designer Series paper pick all the colors that I used in my card today, which I love that we can do that. All we have to do is, pick out our favorite paper, and then we've got our colors all picked for us. So that is how I did it. The only thing that I added in was the pool party. That's the only color that's not actually in this paper already. All right, we're going to take a couple little Stampin' dimensionals, or my half dimensionals that I've chopped up here, and we're going to stick these to the back of the sentiment panel and then add the sentiment to the card front. Come on, little thing. There we go. Sticking to my fingers and refusing to let go. All right. I have a lot of stuff out here on my desk right now, so there are things everywhere. I'm having a hard time finding a spit. Whoop, that's not at all centered. So again, just going to put this down here and try to get it centered and straight, because again, like I said, the lines in the paper help you to line it up, but also help it to show if it's not very straight. So, all right, so I think we did it. That's it for the card front. So like I said, it's super simple, and hopefully we'll give it a try. The shaker cards are so much easier than they look. I mean, they're such a wow and such a cool card, and you think that they're a lot of work, and they're really not. So it's super easy, especially when you have the pieces that have got the adhesives on it. So all you do is kind of stick everything together and hand it off. Everybody's all impressed with your amazing skills in stamping, and you're just like, yeah, I know, because I'm good. So, all right. So this inside of the card, I've got a little sentiment here, again from the classic Cloche stamp set, and I've got basic gray ink, and we are going to stamp the sentiment here. Originally, I had not planned to stamp the little village on the inside of the card like I did, but I had a smudge of basic gray ink when I stamped the sentiment. I had some on my finger and put it down, and then had a smudge on the card. So then I just decided, well, what better way to cover it up than to just stamp something that looks like I intended to put it there, instead of having, having a big smudge on the card, or flipping it over and redoing it, All right, so I've stamped the little image again in basic gray, and then I'm going to add in the sort of outline or snow or cloud image, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know. I'm not sure what the official term is on this one. Would it be tree line, roof lines? I don't know. So I'm going to take that and stamp it over the top in Pool Party ink, stamped off once. And then the final piece of this is Smoky Slate ink and the little houses. And again, we're going to do the same thing, just ink it up, stamp it on scrap paper, and then stamp over the top of the houses, if I can get it lined up. The stamp set does have little, the stamp does have little windows cut in it, and I'm not sure how easily you can see that because it's clear, but when you're lining it up, you can definitely see it, and it's much easier to stamp it because you can line the windows up and everything else to help you to get everything in the right place. Then the last little piece is I'm adding, this time I'm going to put the sparkly side up on it, some of the Peaceful Place Designer Series paper. This is just a little leftover piece that I trimmed off when I was cutting one of the other parts for the card front. And we're going to just use a little bit of Stampin' Seal to adhere that to the bottom of the cardstock panel. And again, this is just basic white cardstock, which is cut to 4 by 5 1/4 is what I'm trying to say. And just going to adhere that together, and then snip off the edge, and then we're going to adhere it inside the card, and we'll be all done with the card for today. So all the details for this will be posted out on my blog tomorrow, which is stampwithamyk.com. So if you are not following along, definitely hop out there and subscribe if you want to get all the latest from Stampin' Up! And all of my projects as well. And but yeah, again, when the video goes live, I will add a link in the description of this video, so you'll be able to find it and find all the details on the card. So, all right, thanks so much for joining. And Dee's asking, can you use the Stamparatus for this one? Oh, definitely. You can use the Stamparatus for pretty much anything. I mean, if you got it all lined up, that's the main thing, is making sure you have it lined up first, and then just put the different images on your plate and flip it around, and it'd be super easy to do if you're going to do multiples of it, to do it with the Stamparatus. So I would highly recommend it. So thanks again to everybody for joining today. I appreciate y'all being here. I will not be live on YouTube on Friday. I have a Stampin' Up! Event that I will be attending all day on Friday, so I'm not going to be going live. However, I will be back next week, Tuesday, around 2 o'clock Eastern Time on my Facebook channel live, and then again next week, Friday, around 2 o'clock Eastern Time on my YouTube channel. So thanks for joining today. Again, I appreciate y'all being here. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll chat soon.